you know, not necessarily my family, but you know what I'm saying. It was a
Yeah.
stigma associated with it. But then it became like, hey, some people think you're an important guy now, you know. But you know that wears after a while. And I said that's not me anyway. I've never been big into celebrity, but the first times it's kind of cool, right? But so things change, projects change. Like I say, being involved in the changes in Poker Stars, that was fun.
Hmm.
So yeah, anything where I can be creative is kind of fun for me.
Yeah.
Once I lose that, then it's not that much fun anymore.
I mean, over those years when, I mean, let's say from 2004, let's say that. Um, I mean, all those years when people came up to you, want to take selfies and stuff like that and get autographs in your book and everything. Do people still remind you of that when you meet them? Or, I mean, apart
Well,
from the last year when you haven't been out much?
well, it's kind of funny how that is because there's a certain age demographic that knows who I am, and younger than that and older than that kind of don't know me as much because you know not seeing me now because things aren't on TV they used to. So the people who were between 15 and 25 when the poker boom started, they still remember who I am and they'll recognize me and whatever. But like I said, the new people, I did that thing with Phil Ivey you probably saw,
Yeah, I saw that.
and Phil's still in the mainstream enough that people know who he is. Uh, so, but it's that doesn't matter to me because, again, that was something. It was neat when it first happened, but I've done that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's not like I crave that. You know,
Yeah.
you see a movie about some old actress who craves being back in the limelight. That's not me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm more someone. I'm happy to have had the experience. Now I'll go on to some new experience. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and the reason I'm doing this interview is because you're my friend. It is because you're Ricard, that you know, who most people regard as the best interviewer in Europe, and you know, I think of you as kind of a big deal. But
Yeah.
if you weren't my friend, I still would have said, "Nah, it's not for me."
Yeah, I know. It was interesting years. I just came in like you did. You came in at the right time, and I started doing what I did at the right time, I guess. And I found that it was really entertaining and interesting, and meeting all these people and spending a lot of time in the States as well. I remember I set up this interview booth on the back where the hoop was, you know, where outside at World Series, or I used some of the stages, and I was more or less the only one doing those kind of things in the beginning. That was fun.
Yeah, yeah, and again, you got to be creative, and
Yeah,
because it was a new thing you were doing.
yeah.
Now you've got
I
now
remember
you've
one
got
thing specific in at the Scoop event. It was an online event, and you played a sit and go tournament, like a Scoop event number 40. And you and you did a screen share with me and talked through the whole table. I used some that was very appreciated. No one had done that before. Those kind of things. You
yeah,
wanted to.
yeah, no, no, yeah, yeah. I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing
Yeah.
a thing like that, doing a stream. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah. I remember one.
I dread
Yeah, I
that
remember one thing specific
stream with
at
this.
the Scoop event. It was an online event, and you played a sit and go tournament, like a Scoop event number 40. And you did a screen share with me and talked through the whole table. I used some that was very appreciated. No one had done that before. Those kind of things. You
Yeah,
wanted to.
yeah, no, no, yeah, yeah. I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing
Yeah.
a thing like that, doing a stream. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah. I remember one.
I dread
Yeah, I
that
remember one thing specific
stream with
at
this.
the Scoop event. It was an online event, and you played a sit and go tournament, like a Scoop event number 40. And you did a screen share with me and talked through the whole table. I used some that was very appreciated. No one had done that before. Those kind of things. You
Yeah,
wanted to.
yeah, no, no, yeah, yeah. I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing a thing like that, doing a stream. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah. I remember one.
I dread
Yeah, I
that
remember one thing specific
stream with
at
this.
the Scoop event. It was an online event, and you played a sit and go tournament, like a Scoop event number 40. And you did a screen share with me and talk through the whole table. That was very appreciated. No one had done that before. You wanted to.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing a thing like that, doing a stream. And again,
I remember.
I dread
I
that.
remember one thing specific
With
at
this.
the Scoop event. It was an online event, and you played a sit and go tournament, like a Scoop event number 40. And you and you did a screen share with me and talked through the whole table. That was very appreciated. No one had done that before. You wanted to.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing a thing like that, doing a stream. And again,
I remember.
I dread that.
I remember one thing specific
with
at
this.
the Scoop event. The whole table. That was very appreciated. No one had done that before. You wanted to.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing a thing like that, doing a stream. And again,
I remember.
I dread that.
I remember one thing specific
with
at
this.
the Scoop event. The whole table. That was very appreciated. No one had done that before. You wanted to.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing a stream. And again, where I'm gonna, this thing does well, I'll make money, so I'm invested it that way. So it's not, so I'm not able to make money at poker like I used to make it for a number of reasons, and I'm even thinking coming out of this lockdown, I need to prepare myself for the future. I think of a lot of, there'll be people listening to this that for the last 8 to 12 months have just been sitting at home and locked down, and they lost their jobs or the companies went under. A lot of bad economic tragedies are laying in the wake of this pandemic. But I hope anyone listening is setting themselves up to be ready when things aren't locked down. And that means even starting on a project, starting on a temp job, if you have to give your name to that. Don't just wait to the last minute and say, hey, I'm in really bad shape now, I got to do something, because you're going to be behind other people. You should have been working on that the last 8 months, and you should be working on it now. You should be preparing for your future. Setting themselves up. Most people, especially poker players, poker's not going to probably be as good as it was before, for sure. I'm going to go back into some of these poker rooms and some of these players who play there for fun that are important for me making my living. Maybe they're not going to want to go back in the card room because they're still threat of disease, or maybe they're doing other things now. So, it isn't. I do enjoy the new creativity, but at some point, it's going to be work. If you know what I mean, it's not going to be passion. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be work. You just started with your podcast again. Hey, it's good to renew old acquaintances, and you're having a little bit of fun. But at some point, you're going to say, "Okay, I got to do this again. It's work."
It is true. I thought about it when the idea came up, and I thought I would enjoy that, and we'll see if I find a way to make that a bit of my living, if you can say it that way, and doing stuff that you enjoy, and maybe do some new creative stuff with the design or whatever. And I think there are quite a few out there that I haven't been speaking to for maybe 5-6 years, you know. And it's nice to hear what they've been up to and what they're like today. Some people would ask, I guess, Barry, if they would say, "Oh, you played for so many years, you did some good things with Semantic, and you did some money in the poker." I mean, isn't there? Do you ever think of retiring?
Well, I was going to, like I said, at one point.
Yeah, but I mean now.
I started to. Well, now really, I have to make. I gave away almost all my cash before the 2008 when we had the crash in the stock market. We had poker get shut down online in the United States. I thought I'd never need money again. I had a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'd given away. I said I can afford to give away my cash. I had stock holdings and tech stocks. I thought I was set for life. I never had to worry about money again the rest of my life. But that's not true, because the truth is I probably didn't plan well enough. I mean, you can say, how could I have seen the triple whammy? Housing market, I had property, stock market crash, online poker get shut off. I had good income from Poker Stars. That kept getting lower and lower and lower until it wasn't significant anymore. I mean, I can make excuses and say that it wasn't all my fault, but I'm
bad beats.
But yeah, it was a real bad beat. But I take responsibility that I didn't plan well enough, and it means I have to work and try to make money now. Whether it's playing poker, whether it's with this new company, whatever. I don't have enough money to retire anymore, even though I had sick amount of money before. No, it's not the case now. So yeah, I didn't plan on working when I was in my 60s, but I actually am now.
Yeah, but it's great though to see that you have done well enough with your deeds that people still want you to work. Isn't that a great thing to be happy about?
Yeah, well, I'm hopefully I'm still a few years away from being senile. Some people listening might say I'm already there, but I'm able, even though I can't process and I can't, whether it's poker or business or whatever, processing speed goes down over time. Phil was arguing with me that no, it doesn't have to, but we'll see when he gets to my age. But the one thing I do have is I have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And I told you I have like 3 hours of meetings every morning with the company I'm at. And they're all really gung-ho and tell me all these great things that we're going to do and say, isn't this going to be neat? Isn't that going to be neat? This is really going to be successful. And most of my time is like I'm Debbie Downer. I don't know if that means anything to you.
What is that?
I'm the person saying, I can see how things can go wrong.
Yeah.
You guys are always assuming everything will go well.
Yeah.
I can see that it's not going to be as easy as you think. You keep on saying that we can program this and do that. I can see things where it's not going to work smoothly, bugs, but also when you do a big project, things happen that don't go the way you thought they were going to. I mean, even I can think of so many things in Semantic where even then, because I'd worked on projects before, I'd say, you guys aren't preparing time-wise for what can go bad. Right. People get sick who are important. There are bottlenecks where you're waiting for someone to get their part done. Even something, I was discussing with the guys that, I'm having fun discussing technology because I got into computers before the guys in our company, where I was saying, we first had the very first IBM PC. It's called the chip was called the 8088.
Yeah.
And then a year later or so, we got the new, twice as fast, at least, I can't remember, the chip for people who were into that stuff was the 8286, I think.
Okay.
And, or sorry, not 80. Yeah, that's what
it was a new one anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, 286, the next IBM PC, at least twice as fast. And we had our hardware guys make it even faster. We all get these new machines. We're the first company in Silicon Valley to get these new great computers, and they just freeze up. Everyone's computers don't work. I was saying, what the heck did IBM do? Well, it ended up, we had souped these. Think of a car that you can soup up to go even faster. You take off, you know how cars make it so you can't go, they have what's the word for it? They can't go over 180 miles an hour. They have a thing
yeah, like it strangles it in a way.
It
The
cuts it.
speed, yeah,
But
muscle maybe, muscle
no,
or
no,
something.
no. There's a word for it, and I'm forgetting.
Yeah,
But
okay.
people who are listening know what I'm talking about. Um, but anyway, with computers, they have something like that too, holding the chips down for the maximum performance. Well, we unleashed it, but what happened is when we unleashed these chips, the peripheral devices couldn't work. The screen, even the stuff that writes to the screen, would freeze up. You couldn't even the printer wouldn't work. So we had to find out, oh, the peripheral devices aren't used to running at these speeds. The point I'm getting at is things happen that you can't predict
You're right.
and get in the way of your production. And so you can't just plan. So many people, when they work on a project, they say, this will take a day, this will take a day, that'll take a day.
Mm.
And then they do the project. And not only do people get sick, bad things happen, but you got to get the bugs out.
Yeah,
The manuals
yeah.
manuals have to. So many things have to happen that I would just laugh at these people. Even a company that was successful like Symantec, their planning was just so way off from
Mm.
reality.
Right.
And so
But
like I say, in the meetings I'm in, I'm often the guy saying that probably isn't going to go as smoothly as you think.
no, I think it's important because I've seen many guys like that throughout the years, like the guys who can sell an idea, who can talk and drive forward. And I'm kind of impressed by them. I don't have anything of that. I'm not a good salesman myself, but you need those guys for sure. But you also need someone behind, pulling the brakes a little bit on them. Otherwise, you go overboard, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll
Mm.
see. But like I said, the good thing with this company, we'll see how it is. I like the people. I like working with them, and I found, like at Semantic, we had about 3 or 4 key employees, and I was considered one of them, who really felt like they had never failed. Anything they put their minds to, they succeeded.
Yeah.
And that their egos they were confident in themselves, but not confident to the point that it would hurt the product. They knew
Right.
they were confident that they could get the job done, and they would do their part. They'd never be the long leg in getting something done. And so we have some of those people in our company. And so even though I think we've got a good offering, that's the more important thing to me. If things, and we'll see if I'm right. And then even
Mm.
once you do a good product, Semantic started in the days of venture capitalists throwing money at all these new computer companies.
Right.
And only 3 of them from the year that I started survived out of more than 100. I don't even know that venture capitalists threw billions of dollars into overall. 3 of them survived. 2 of them got bought out. That's how they survived. They got acquired. Their product got acquired. Only one made it as a standalone company. Out of all those companies, that was Symantec.
Yeah.
And there were
Wow.
times when we didn't know if we'd make it either. And I still attribute it to, we had people in the company that were going to make sure it was successful. That was the
Right.
key component, not the
Yeah.
ideas, because sometimes you change streams in the middle of an idea. You go a totally different direction, and we
Mm.
did at Symantec too. Uh, but it's people are still always the most important asset you have.
Mm. That's for sure. And you had the right guys to make sure it was successful there. So that's good. I mean, is there time? I mean, it's poker related, you say. Is there anything else outside tech and poker and maybe a bit of golf that you put your time into?
At this point, not so much. If I had retired at 50, I actually was thinking of going to medical school.
Really?
Because I always thought that my computer science background and my math background allows me to solve some problems like curing incurable diseases that other people can't do because they don't have that expertise.
Right.
And part of that comes out of that when I was in graduate school to get my working on my PhD in math, I would teach courses in that'd be more, instead of just the regular calculus for engineering students, which I thought that too. It'd be more like qualitative calculus more than quantitative
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that people to understand the concepts, stuff that people in the economics. I'd have students who were getting degrees in economics, or students who were getting degrees in who were in pre-med.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, these guys are so bad in this math that it made me scared. I'm saying these are going to be the doctors in the future. They're
Right.
really inept at this kind of stuff. They can't solve problems. And as a mathematician, there is a big ego with being a mathematician. We kind of feel like we're the ones who prove the theorems and make the rules that other people use, whether they're in economics, in medicine, in psychology. There's always biometrics or things where you use the math and we prove the theorems. And even in physics, there are people who maybe are physicists, but you need the guys doing the math and proving things mathematically that are still at the core of showing why this works.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I could go into medicine. I wouldn't want to be a doctor as far as having patients, but maybe, you know, we're even seeing with this mRNA, that's kind of what's going on. They have a technique for taking the code of the virus, the genetic code of the virus, and basically programming it, changing some things and sticking in your body so your body thinks it's the real virus and it's not.
Yeah,
And,
that is math.
Yeah, it is. So it's that type of thing that I would have gone into, those types of things.
Yeah. So is there anything, I mean, you didn't do that now when you were 50. Is there something that you are studying or listening a lot to or reading these days?
Well, I personally, like, my light reading is always quantum physics and cosmology. So
Right.
so I'm always reading at the lowest levels, the tiniest levels, what's going on, you know, because we're always looking for what's called a unifying, you know, a unification of gravity, you know, small and strong forces. You know, these small things that are going on don't work like Newton would have thought, but we still don't know how it all ties together. So that stuff's always interesting. And cosmology is like studying things that are, you know, the birth of the universe, and if there was something before it, and all the new things we're finding. So that level of physics, it's kind of funny. I never was that big into physics when I was in college. In college, I remember I was originally getting a degree in math. Then they offered a degree in computer science. It was in the engineering department. So I quickly had to take chemistry and physics.
Right.
And I actually did something where I took some tests and got out of the lower level ones, but then I had to take the courses in the later level ones. And I shouldn't brag about it, but my scores would be so much, like, we'd have 200 people and they'd have like the highest score on the test, the average would be 82, and I'd always be over 90. I'd be the guy, the dot, way above everyone else.
Really?
So I was really good academically. And my roommate was a physics major. He was way better than me at physics. And it would just drive him crazy. And I'd say, well, I know the math. They don't test you on having a feel for the physics, which he's way better than me. But they give you problems that are the math. And I know the calculus, whatever. I know the math behind it all. And I know how to do that, or I would learn it, you know, in my physics courses. So of course I'm better at math than the physics guys are. They're all better than me at physics.
Yeah.
So I test better. I'm not better than them, man. I just test better. So
that's interesting.
So knowing the math is the key to testing well.
Right.
It doesn't mean you know the subject that well.
No, but you should combine that in some way, because what you said before about doctors and don't have maths at all, but they know a lot of doctor stuff. So how can you combine that? Can you use that kind of knowledge that you're talking about now to improve medicine, for example?
Well, I still could have when I was 50 years old. I'm over.
Yeah, but can you help explain this to people so we come further in?
No, but there are young kids who are doing exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm sure they're making great contributions. And that's why we do have. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that these vaccines that they made, that are coming out, the Pfizer and the first two were here were Pfizer and Moderna, and over, you know, in England we had the AstraZeneca. But these two, what are called mRNA vaccines, I don't know if you know. Do you know how long it took to make the vaccine?
No, I don't know.
I'm asking you the question.
Yeah,
take a guess. How long do you think it took them to actually make the vaccine for this COVID, what they call COVID-2?
Yeah, I have no idea. A month?
Less than a week.
Less than a week. Yeah.
They had the process ready. They were ready from when they studied the previous coronavirus. They made it the first week. But you can't you don't know what the dosage is. You don't know if people, there might be other effects. They give it to, that's why you have it in our country. I know how it is in Europe. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. First,
Yeah.
you give it to healthy people, and you're learning that the dosage that won't make people sick. Then then you have to do trials. There are each of these trials to see, does it hurt people? Are there side effects? Does it create antibodies? All this other stuff. Making the vaccine itself was kind of like what we're talking about, the mathematical part. Now
I see.
testing and all that other part, that's
Yeah.
the science part.
Right. That's
So
interesting.
the science part takes at least a year.
Mm.
They were ready mathematically to make a virus right from the jump. As soon as they got the genetic code for it, they were ready to go. And we're going to see out of this, they're going to be creating vaccines for other viruses, for things that we have, and for new viruses that are to come. We're still going to be having other viruses come out that don't exist. And they're going to be ready for them.
I was thinking about a thing when all these young players came up in the poker world. I kept on thinking about how quite a few of these guys with great mathematic minds could have been of better use outside poker. I mean, medicine, physics, or whatever. Did you ever think about that? You know what I mean?
All the time. Because
it's kind of frustrating, right?
Because that's one of the things with myself. I always have to say, am I being productive? What am I contributing to the world? Those are things that I was raised that are important things. And of course, people, of course, I'd always have to ask myself, I could have gone on to do some of these other things we're talking about. And here I'm just sitting at a poker table trying to make money. Now,
kind of a waste.
And when people even ask me about, the charity stuff, that's part of it. At least I can say, okay, I made money, but I did some good things with it.
Yeah.
So some people say, hey, don't you wish you had some of that money back? And the answer is no, not even close.
Right.
Because having that money back kind of means that my whole existence was worthless.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That I wasted my talents. So no, not at all.
I was wondering how much was it, the Robin Hood of poker was just a thing that was used for quite a few years for you because you gave away some of your winnings for the first few years. How much was that image? How much was that? What did you think of that nickname?
Well, I didn't care about the nickname one way or the other, but it's whatever. People came up with it. An image. Well, it's nice that people think you're a good guy.
Good-hearted, yeah.
But my initial thing about that whole thing was like the first time I did it was a WPT event I won, and I told people ahead of time, this is what I'm going to do with whatever I win. And Mike Sexton and I were kind of brainstorming, hey, this is going to be a big deal, not because of the $1 million I'm about to give away if I win, but because it will put other people on that path.
Right.
And it ended up, I think, working out pretty successfully. I don't want to take credit for all the good things people have done charitably in poker, and obviously I don't deserve it. But I do think I had an effect.
Right, for sure.
And so I'm proud of that. My family's proud of that. They take ownership in that. I had a positive effect in the world. I don't think you can really ask for more than coming out of this feeling like you had a positive effect.
Well,
and if you ask me what's the most rewarding thing about it all, the thing I often think about is we had a thing. It wasn't Make-A-Wish Foundation. I don't know even know if you know what that is in Europe.
I remember. Yeah.
But we would have this thing in poker where people would have this terminal cancer, and poker was big enough that they would want to like talk to you,
right?
Whether it's on a stream or whatever, or a phone call, or like a guy would say, "I'll play this tournament for you." Hey, follow me online. And we'd have people dying, and when you can make their day, these are people who've been in pain. And they're going to die. They really are going to die, probably this next year. And you can have a positive effect on them and make them feel good for a short time. It's pretty rewarding. I've done that.
It's huge.
I've done that, and I'm just telling you, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to me. That I could get some. I mean, certainly I got something out of it. And hopefully they did. They had one better day. That's probably all they got out of it.
Yeah, I go to ask you one of those journalist questions. What was the biggest bit? Because you said that you were kind of not the black sheep, but some people in your family and so on looked at you like, yeah, he's playing poker. So how much was it most important to cover up for the black sheep thing, or was it to do good things? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I had, fortunately, in my family, I wasn't looked at that way because
No.
I had done other productive things. Remember, I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
my
yeah,
own computer company. I'd done
yeah.
semantic. I'd done things. I'd gotten educated. It's not like I dropped out of college to play poker.
No.
Um,
There you go.
so
There you go.
so I had done things that are productive that my family was all behind it. And then I
Mm.
even wrote a book, so that was
Yeah,
my family was involved in that project too.
yeah.
Um, so I didn't have that personally, but a lot of people did.
Right.
I would um, I know I had a lot of parents over the years would ask me, "Oh, my son, he just stays online and plays poker. It's terrible what he's doing. We thought he was gonna be involved in his uncle's business." And I said, "Well, what's his uncle's do?" And his uncle have some sort of stock business or something, or even
Yeah,
insurance. But the thing is, they had raised their kid to believe that making money is what means is what determines whether you're successful or not,
yeah.
and that's all that mattered. And
Mm.
I don't. There were so many times I'd say, "Well, you were the ones who told him that his worth as a person is how much money he makes."
Right.
And
Oh,
now
that's a
he
good
sees,
answer.
and now he sees poker as a way he can make money because he's good at it. He's
Yeah,
a kid who's good at it. He's making money. Maybe it won't stay that way, whatever, but he's actually doing pretty well. You're looking at it as non-productive, but you were telling him all his life, what are you going to do? How are you going to make a lot of money? And now he's doing it. And then you're now saying, no, you don't want him to make money that way. And
right.
I don't know. I mean, they get mad at me. Uh, and I'd say, you're really part of the problem, or you are the reason. And I'd
But it's
explain to them that my family never raised me to believe that money was the goal.
all right.
You get a job so you can take care of your family. Yeah, you want to be
Right.
comfortable. It's easier if you have money than not. But the goal is to create, to do positive things, to make the world a better place. That's what makes you successful. So if you
Right.
raise your kids to only think about money, well, yeah, when poker starts and they're really intelligent people, they're going to gravitate to that, of course.
Did you have any advice for them that could lead in a direction like support them, give them support, and tell them what did you tell these parents except for the that it was too late?
Most of the time, I'd have to talk to the kid.
Yeah, yeah. What
I
did you
talk
say
to the
to the
kid.
kid? What did you
Your,
say to the kid?
I'd say your parents steered you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I said, no, there's more to life. I said, no matter, money's gonna come and go,
Mm.
but you're a really sharp kid and you dropped out of college. And I can tell you, and this is a time where I had plenty of money. I got millions of dollars. If that's all I had, I'd feel pretty empty.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to the point where even if you're one of two things is going to happen. You're going to have a lot of money or you're going to go broke.
Yeah.
Usually there's nothing much in between.
All right.
And if you're broke, you're going to feel, what the heck did I did? And if you have a lot of money, you're going to think, where am I now? And what could I
Yeah.
have done?
Yeah.
So either way, I had so many kids, and that was another thing that was very gratifying to me. I really did was able to have a lot of people go back to school
Right.
and
That would.
and
Yeah.
and find a career. And I'd say, have that at least in your in your back pocket, that if poker changes, which it did, made it, obviously it's not as lucrative as it was for most of us during the heyday. But if things change, if poker dries up, you got this other stuff you can do. And
Right.
always look for things that you are passionate about that you'd like to go into.
Mm.
So at
Yeah.
least
That.
it'll be more enjoyable,
Mm.
because your job, even if it's poker, you always think, hey, everyone enjoys playing poker. No, but you
Mm.
might have something else. Maybe you like being a forest ranger. I don't know. You
Yeah.
really like the outdoors. But if that's something you really enjoy, make sure you get that in your life, because that's going to make you happier
Right.
than just having
Right.
a good bank account.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really important advice for sure. And it was for quite a while there when the hype was and when the boom came along and it was so much hype around it. So it was very tricky to get intelligent young kids to not play poker because it was such an opportunity for many of them. Do you ever feel like you were part of that? Have you thought about how the way you were a part of infected many people to think of it as such a glamorous life?
Well, of course,
Yeah.
and I tell them, no, yeah, for the people who are at the top of the chain, at the top of the pyramid, yeah, it's a lot of fun. but there are still a lot of down times and things you are, going to be wondering if this is really the right thing to do. Like I said, the more intelligent you are, the more you're going to question if this is the right path.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, one of the first, I used to speak in front of groups of college kids, and one of the biggest one I ever had, live anyway, maybe online it's been bigger, is when I went back to my alma mater, University of Illinois, and I had a big auditorium full of kids. And I remember saying, I'm just going to tell you straight out, the fact that you're here means you guys are playing too much poker. You guys are probably,
It's a bad sign.
I said, if you're here to see me, it makes me think you're not doing what you should. You're not taking care of business. You got to take care of business first, and your business is getting your education. And yeah, and I still know some of those guys that some of them did well in poker who were at that talk at University of Illinois. And I'd say, when I was in school, I still made sure I finished my courses. I did well in them. I played poker mostly on the weekend. I know it's hard to do with the accessibility online, but probably it's better for your health, for your mental health, and for your future if you can schedule things a little better.
Right.
I said, it's the old adage, goes back to the ancient Greeks. You take care of your work first, and then you can have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was trying to push that in poker, and then someone asked an unfortunately very insightful question, and I tell them how, even though I represent poker stars, I told them ahead of time I'm going to be telling people they're probably playing too much poker, and if you don't like me, then don't have me as an ambassador. And then someone said, you represent poker stars, and they're paying all these things for this supernova elite where you get all these benefits. Everything they market is to make us play poker 24 hours a day,
Right.
as much as we can, so we get all the benefits. And you're representing this company, and then you come here and tell us we're playing too much poker, and your company tells us does everything they can to play us to have us play more. What do you have to say about that?
Wow, good question.
And I said, I guess it just shows I'm a hypocrite, because it's so often you find out you think you're this guy who's got the answers, and so many times, I mean, it's amazing as I've seen in my life how many times you got a thing, but there's another side to it, and you're not the good guy you thought you were.
Yeah, that's very good. I think it comes back to what we talked about earlier when it comes to politics. I think people should learn to listen more, for sure, always, and look up the guys on the other side of the fence. Try to listen to. I think that's a big problem in the States, in my country as well. That you just listen. Look at Facebook. You just listen to the guys that have the same thoughts as you have, and that's one of the big, really problems, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You need to listen to the ones on the other side, right?
For sure. You got to listen to everyone. And like I said, not everyone's coming from the same background as you. Not everyone thinks the way, and just attacking people because they were raised differently, they think differently, their news is different, their ideas are different. That's how it's affecting you. And the thing is, don't be so sure that you're right about everything you think. You're not. Some of your things are wrong. Some of your ideas are wrong.
Yeah, I think over the past year or maybe two, there have been so many oppositions that I think people sometimes can think that is there any hope that things are going to turn out in a better direction, because it just seems to be worse and worse and more divided. Is there a solution to this for USA, for example?
Well, let me go the opposite of what you just said. Every time, the last few elections we've had, the people who were supporting the person who lost the presidential election thought now there is no hope, that
Right.
that the end is near. This is the end of it. And I try to tell them, this for most of us is not going to affect our everyday lives. It's affecting people. It usually affects people at the bottom who are struggling.
Yeah.
And maybe makes their struggles worse or maybe better. Or the people at the top, sometimes it's affecting them. But for most of us in the middle, our day-to-day life isn't changing as much. But so many of the people in the middle are thinking, that's the end of my life. That's the end of our country. That's the end of the world. No, it isn't. So I would first, instead of saying, addressing the question you asked about can it get better, I just want to address to those people, it isn't going to be as tragic if you're now depressed about it.
Right.
or 4 years ago you were about to kill yourself.
Yeah.
It wasn't, all the things they told you were going to happen when you thought it was the end of the world, they didn't happen.
Mm.
And all the
No.
things that people think now are going to be the end of the world, they aren't going to happen. It's not going to be that bad. And you, at least in the countries we live in, most of the determination of what's going to be our futures, we have a lot of say in it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have enough freedom that we can make things work.
Yeah. I think in many ways, life for the man. I mean, it's a lot of people in pain and so on, but a lot of people have a really good life and just don't remember to look at it that way. Look at the bright side of things, Look at how good things are in so many areas. That's what I try to say. Right?
Well, the problem is with people is they're going to blame it on other things. There's so many people, there are a lot of people listening who are saying, yeah, well, I have no job, I'm broke, I'm in bad shape, and they're listening to this. You got to get off your butt and you got to make it work. You got to get some momentum going,
right,
in the right direction. Sitting there feeling sorry for yourself, yeah, you're going to have a sad life. I'm sorry to tell you. Waiting for someone else to save you, you're going to have a sad life.
Have you listened?
But you got to start making some moves into, hey, this is my future. You may not see it long term, so you got to go in short steps. But educate yourself on certain things. You got to move in a positive direction. The worst thing for me when I was 20 years old is spending a day where I felt I didn't learn anything new. I didn't move in a positive direction. To me, that was a lost day.
Yeah, I know for quite a few years ago, I found out about Jordan Peterson, and he wrote his 12 rules for life and so on. And I think his basic rule is make your bed. It's like you have to start somewhere. And if it's a mess around you, just start in that corner and start to make that nice, and then build from there. Everyone can do that.
Exactly.
Right?
And I have that with my kids all the time, where I try to reward them, even if it's going outside and going for a run.
Yeah.
Learning something new. That's a positive thing. It doesn't always translate into, money or things like that, but doing something positive, that's you should keep in mind in your life. Do positive things, and that's really going to help out.
Yeah.
Keep the momentum going.
That's excellent. When I started the idea of doing this, I thought I talked to Martin Jakobsen, the world champion of 2014, and I thought we're going to talk about old hands, not hands, but maybe talking to you would be a little bit about high stakes poker and so on. But are you more of a guy living in now than in the past? Would you say?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
To me, the past is just about experience.
Right.
So I'm going to reflect on the past.
And use it now.
Yeah, and use it for that experience should help me do better things. But for sure, I live in today. I mean, try to plan better for the future. Like I said, I haven't always done the best job of that. But yeah, for sure, living, I don't want to say in the moment and spontaneous, but I certainly don't live in the past.
No, I think that's an important lesson for people as well, because there's so many people complaining about things that has happened. Oh, that was bad, and they're complaining about that. That doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes your now worse, I think. So it's better to look at now. Maybe use a good experience and go forward. So that's a good lesson, Barry. Yeah, it was great talking to you, Barry. And we used to do this quite often back in the day, but maybe we shouldn't wait another 4 or 5 years until we talk next time. What do you think?
Well, I guess it's a play on since my heritage is Jewish, that there was a thing that they used to say to each other before Israel was even formed, which was "See you next year." I think in Jerusalem, actually.
Okay.
Which would never happen. Eventually, did happen. So all I can say is we still have a date that we'll see you next year in Sweden.
Yeah, I look forward to that. If I don't see you first, I mean, if I don't get to Vegas first or something, or we meet at some poker event or something, I sure look forward to. You've never been to Sweden, right? You haven't been that much to Europe at all, have you?
With Poker Stars, I went to.
Yeah.
I didn't
Budapest,
go. Yeah,
Barcelona.
so most of the time was just London, Paris, uh, you know, so
Barcelona,
Barcelona, Italy. Went to some places there.
San
So
Remo,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the major tournament stops. So that's
Yeah.
what I did. I always enjoy Europe. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
And
will show you Stockholm one day when you and Alex come here. We will show you Sweden for you, and hopefully we have got this herd immunity sorted out as well, right?
well, I assume you guys are getting vaccinated too.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're not that. It's not as urgent here for some reason, like in UK and so on. But we're getting there, and I feel confident about it. And I think I think I had it in February or something, just a short bit, because I met a lot of people, and I haven't had it since anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of people, especially poker players, who've acted like there's no pandemic. I've talked to a lot of them here who say, "I'm pretty sure I had it a couple times because I was sick. I was sick for a week and I recovered."
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I think poker players may have the highest level of antibodies of
Immune system. Yeah, yeah,
any
yeah, yeah.
population because they went through it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, Barry, we should end this, but I really appreciate our talk, and I'm looking forward to talk to you soon again, and let's chat later down the road, and at least if not else, we plan for your trip to Sweden.
Sounds good, Ricardo.
That concludes the second episode of The Sweetest Deal. It was really nice talking to Barry, and we will be back in 2 weeks with another guest. Thank you very much for listening, and a big thanks to our sponsor, Intertops Poker. See you soon. Welcome to the third episode of the podcast series, The Sweetest Deal. This series is possible thanks to our cooperation with Intertops Poker. This time around, we have a very interesting guest who lives in Las Vegas, who's been in poker for 25 years or so. In Sweden, we have an expression called a love child has many names. This guy is known as Kid Poker, Teen Eggs, many other names, but his real name is Daniel Negrano. So this is the third episode of The Sweetest Deal. I'm talking to Daniel Negrano. Daniel, good to see you. How are you?
It's been a long time, man. It looks good. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah. So how's things in Vegas?
Vegas is great. I mean, I guess we don't really leave our house. Obviously with the COVID stuff, me and my wife, we've been quarantined for about a year now. So I've only left the house about 10 times, but we love everything we got here at the house. I got everything I need.
Yeah. And that's, when it comes to tests and stuff, if you're in a relationship and you survive a pandemic, that's about as tough as it gets.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? So like we just got married, it's only been a couple of years now. It's pretty early on. So I guess like the real test for a lot of people is, this quarantine, spending that much time with someone is either going to make you go, leave me alone, or you grow closer together. And we grew much closer together, throughout this. And we because she's not really she doesn't like to go out and hang out. We both like staying home. So it worked out really well for us.
What are there any specific, if someone asks you, what do you do you need to get your own time sometime, or do you get that in the house?
See, that's the great thing is what she's done. And I had a previous girlfriend who was not like this at all. It didn't work because I need my independence. I need my alone time. The good news is so does she. So she's a late sleeper. She wakes up very late and goes to sleep very, very late. So right now she's still asleep. Okay, so it's like noon right now. So I have the mornings. I can go to the gym. I do all my stuff. And then in the evenings, we get together and we'll watch some shows or whatever like that. But she stays the house is kind of cut in half. Where in the early part of the day she's upstairs, I'm downstairs, and then we reconvene together either up or down. It's like dating.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's good. Of course, some people it's different way. I'm in Sweden. I don't know if you heard about the Swedish situation where we were kind of the guinea pigs of the world, where they tested things to see if it was okay with herd immunity. I don't know if you. So we had quite a few deaths. But do you have groups that you meet, any family or friends that are safe?
Literally one person, well, two people. One is my chef. and he's very, very careful. He does not leave his house either. The only place he goes is his house, is my house. And then the other one is Christian Sanchez, he helps me with my computer stuff and all that. And he's also quarantined, right? The big time. So, and even when he comes here, he doesn't need to, but he comes here wearing a mask. And he does.
Really?
So this household is like a pretty damn safe bubble. Like nobody comes in, nobody, like nothing. I mean, if I want to talk to somebody, I can talk to them like this on Skype or on Zoom or something like that.
Yeah. Have you had any scares? I mean, anyone close to you that got the corona and was fine with it, or did you ever feel like you had it?
No, I mean, not at all. Like I said, we don't leave the house. We're pretty damn safe. I mean, if I were to leave the house, I literally leave with a mask, a cover, and a face shield, right? I'm like hoodied up, like, I had to deposit some money in an account and I had to leave the house, and I was like paranoid about it. But no, we haven't really had any scares close to us. Like nobody in my bubble has gotten it. And some of the people that I thought, friends of mine that should have it, they've never gotten it. Because I'm like, I want to look at their Instagram. I'm like, you're literally out all the time, and I never see a mask around your neck or anything. Like, how have you not even, not dead, but how have you not got it? It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it was tricky in the beginning because you thought that, this will blow over, But one of the biggest problems is that you don't know the extent of this. You don't know.
Well, you thought that because you're in Sweden, and your people are like, nah, it's fine. We're healthy here. We're not fat like Americans, who are like one of the largest countries. We're not at risk. We ski, we jog, we cycle. Corona schmona, right? So that's probably why. But here, I mean, my wife and I, very early on, even before, like in December, when we first started hearing about it spreading in Wuhan or whatever, we're like, it's going to come here. We just, if it spreads as fast, it's going to come. I mean, the world is different now. It's not like, in olden times where if something happens in one part of the country, it gets everywhere because we're, a global, people travel. So it spreads. And so we were prepared early. Like we literally didn't know how bad it was going to be, but we bought tons of pasta, beans, pasta sauce, peanut butter, like just the stuff to store, just in case, like, I don't know, maybe Amazon's not going to work. We didn't know how like severe it was going to be, but we were prepared to like live a few months at least.
Yeah, today, luckily, I mean, you have delivery from the grocery shops. You can sort that out. So we're very happy, both in Sweden and in America, to if we can and we can afford it, we can be kind of isolated and be okay, right?
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about the world that's changed. I think in the last year, a lot of people have sort of reflected on, what's important in their life, right? And, you think of technology and all the negatives it has attached to it, right? With people always addicted to their phone and stuff. But like now with Zoom and Skype and stuff, like people can still connect, but they do appreciate the idea of being around other people. I've never really cared. I don't like people that much, to be honest with you. Me and my wife are like, this is good. You stay at a distance, But for a lot of people, I think this has been sort of maybe traumatic experience, but really like an eye opener and realizing like what's important. And for me, I thought about my life. I'm 40. How old am I? 46. I'm 46, right?
When are you born?
July 1974. I'm 46, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife. So what I've realized throughout life is, when you're young and in poker, a lot of things get you angry and you're pissed and you go, you're always involved in the drama or whatever. As you get older, you care less and less about that shit. And like now that I have my wife and my puppies and the life that I've wanted, like I don't care at all what people think of me. You want to say what you want, who cares? I'll say whatever I want because I don't feel like I'm strapped. Thankfully, I'm with GG Poker and they sort of embrace me as who I am, authentic, whatever. Sometimes I'm going to be an asshole. Sometimes I'm going to say stupid shit. But such is life, I don't have to pretend, or whatever, like, oh, I never curse. Because I say curse words. I say fuck sometimes, if that's okay with you.
Oh my God, yes. You say it too little, man. Come on, out with it. Yeah. No, but that's for sure. Is that something that earlier in your career that you always had, everyone had temperament or like you can go into a tantrum or a bad spell of something. Have you looked back and thought that back then when you were around 30, it was more difficult for you to deal with stuff like that and feel bad about it afterwards?
I don't know. I've always been competitive. So, when you see guys like Phil Hellmuth and others, when they get so pissed off when they lose, that's because they have that inner fire, that competitive nature. I've got it too. Like, I don't like losing. I've been good at, like, for most of my career when I'm actually at the table, is, you know, hiding it pretty well. But like when I'm playing online and people stream with me, I'm like, I just go fucking crazy because the person doesn't see. So I'm like, oh, eat some of that, you fucking dick. You call me with fucking 6'5", that's what you get. Oh, like that, right? So you can do that online because it's, you know, I wouldn't do that at the table to somebody, but online, I don't know who the hell this person is, and it becomes impersonal in that regard. But yeah, I do feel free because I know my wife supports me no matter what. Like even if I'm wrong, I'm right in her eyes, right? So it frees you up. Like I don't like the title ambassador, poker ambassador. I think it's a stupid, goofy title where we sort of make ourselves more self-important than we really are. We're just fucking poker players, man. We play a game. We gamble for money. We take advantage of people who have gambling problems or have too much money and like to G-gen. You know what I mean? Like let's just be real here. This isn't knitting. This isn't croquet. This isn't some, you know, oh, you know, what a noble profession. It's gamblers, man. Come on, let's embrace that. That's what made poker popular. The Sammy Farhad, Devilfish, you know, that type of person. Not the boy. Oh, you know, he's a good boy. Fuck that. That's boring.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah. You got that kid poker thing. Was there like a thing like towards your attitude towards the game that got you that nickname, or was it just because you were so young when you came through?
Oh yeah, it started because I was just like, I mean, I started as a teenager in Toronto, and everyone called me kid because they were all 40. You know, there's nobody my age. I was like 19, 18, and they're 40, so they called me kid, and then they put my name on the board. You know, because like you put your name on the list, and they would just put kid, KID. So I embraced kid, and I made one of my email addresses Kid Poker, and so then it's like, all right, Kid Poker it is. But now I go more with
Dean Eggs.
No, like Dean Eggs, because Dean Eggs is short for, you know, Daniel Grano, but whatever. Kid Poker still works.
I would like to see you 70 years old being called Kid. It would be fun.
Yeah.
Here's a kid. Oh, he's got his cane for fuck's sake.
Well, what? Kid Rock is like 55 or 60.
Yeah, I know. He's all right. It's a good nickname. It is for sure. No, and it's quite funny because I saw some recently, not too long ago, when there were some, what you talked about being that have those reactions that you have on your own, but now you were recording it and it was published where you had that, oh my fuck, like that. Did you have second thoughts when you recorded that and published it online?
No, because I can laugh at myself, right? Here's the thing. I think most people can relate to that. Like, how many people have played online poker and felt that way? Where you're so pissed off you want to smash your own laptop. If you haven't felt that, then you're probably not, you know, you have no emotion, right? And I share that with people because it's authentic. When I do my vlog, people see me as I am mostly, and sometimes they see the bad parts of me. I don't cut out the bad parts because it's not real. It's inauthentic. And we live in such a fake world right now. So it's an inauthentic Instagram world where people like post this life that they have, and really deep, you know, at home they got Oreo cookies and they're crying in their, you know, in their sleep because they're, you know, they're actually sad and depressed. And we live in this world where you say the wrong thing or with the wrong phrase, oh, the mobs come out to say, oh, we got to cancel you. We got to cancel because, you know, you said something that's offensive to this group of people and this and that. I'm like, okay, well, you know, hey, sorry about that. But what? You want me to fucking get, you want me like me to just never speak again? Because that's the thing is like we live, so many people today are kind of forced to some degree, especially if you have a job, to live on pins and needles, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't say things exactly right, you're seen as a demon, an evil, sexist, racist, blah, blah, blah. It's like they go to the extreme when, like the recent example, I don't know if you watch Bachelor, but Chris Harrison. Yeah. Chris Harrison, who's the host and has been for a long time, he sort of said things in a way that he probably shouldn't have and has apologized for it. Taking him off the show for this is ridiculous. This guy's got a long career. He's not, you know, it's like, so he said things a little bit. We can't be like that, you know, where, you know, Obama said it best. It's like too many people point fingers at others and say like, oh, I'm woke because I see something you did that's wrong. You know, you really want to be woke in this world. You want to be progressive and make a difference. Then actually take action. You pointing your fingers at what everybody else does wrong, you know, like you can pass this purity test, that doesn't do any good for the world. How about go and make a difference for people in one way or another by volunteering or donating or, you know, hiring people?
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult bits is how much weight does some of these people carry when it comes to listening to their opinion? Because sometimes one loud voice goes over 1,000 other voices just because it's loud. And especially in sensitive times when it comes to Black Lives Matter and Trump and everything. So how do we find a way to regulate these weight of these voices? Do you know what I mean?
Of
How
course.
should we
So
go about that?
here's the danger of what happens, in my opinion, is this. Is like, so when somebody says something slightly off color, or they didn't say it properly or whatever, and they get lambasted, what are they going to do? They're going to stop. Nobody's going to say nothing publicly. Nobody's going to engage, and everyone's going to. But those conversations are going to be had behind closed doors, right? Within the bubbles of things, instead of like an educational moment where like you can say, hey, listen, that's not what we say anymore. We say it like this and like that. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Like if a 65-year-old dealer from Texas is dealing at the World Series of Poker, and a young girl comes down and he says, how you doing, beautiful young lady, honey? Or he says, hi, hey, honey, how you doing, young lady? You look beautiful. Well, today you can't say that to a woman because it's but this guy doesn't mean no fucking harm. He's trying to be nice. He's not a pedophile. He's not like a sexist chauvinist. He's just an old man who didn't know that. So instead of making this guy the villain, just say, hey, listen, that's very sweet of you, but like we don't really say that anymore in that way because it's like seen in this way. And he'll go, I'm sorry, okay, I didn't know.
I'll try to think of that. Yeah.
But the pitchforks is not the approach.
No.
It's just not the way to go. Like, yeah.
It's so tricky. It's so tricky. And of course and then you have the guys that is chauvinistic and says the same thing that he says. Oh, I didn't mean anything by that. So it's very tricky because we don't have any experience of living in an environment like we do now.
I think the way you judge people is you judge them by their actions. Okay? Just really judge them by their actions. Obviously, words do matter, right? But a phrase not fit, phrased exactly right, pales in comparison to action. So let's take two examples, right? There's one guy, he's a white man, he's 55 years old, never said a racist word in his life, never said the N-word, never made a comment racist, right? But he owns a company, never hired a black person, never done anything with black people, or Mexicans or Asians or whatever, right? But he's never said anything racist, right? Versus another guy who works in the inner city, who hires minorities, who helps them get back on their feet, but he has in his past sang a song and used the N-word, and spoke out of color and made a racist comment, right? Okay. Now, if you look at the actions of one and the other, which one is the problem, right? Is it the guy who said the N-word, 15 years ago? Or is it the guy who secretly, systematically, pushes forward like patriarchy and racism by institutionally not hiring people versus the other guy who's in the trenches. He's doing things. But listen, he made an off-color comment, whatever. He's apologized for it. Let's move on. Like we can't judge. This is what we do today. We judge people today, or we judge people of the past based on standards of today. Okay?
Right,
Perfect
right.
example.
So
We use
tricky.
the word retard, right? Retard is, the actual definition means like slower process.
Yeah.
But obviously people who are mentally ill, were called retards. But in the old days, we used to say that, like, oh, come on, Ricard, don't be a retard, right?
Yeah.
But we've learned that, that's not okay, right? Because it's, it's offensive to these people, so we don't say it anymore, right? But if I said it 10 years ago, right, you're going to tell me I'm an awful person and I'm insensitive because I said something that everybody else was fucking saying, Like when they start combing through video and, events from 20, 30 years ago and say, oh, this is so wrong. Like, not by those days standards. They are today, as we learn, which is great, but there needs to be a lot more just empathy, and also intention matters. Like people always, oh, your intention doesn't matter. It does. What people actually meant to do, are they, if they said it wrong, you can let them know. But as long as their intentions are good, like give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think this is so tricky, and I thought about it a lot. It is how to get this on the right side and to kind of get rid of this, because the cancel culture and all these things are so tricky to deal with, and all these, where there's so much diversity. You have a lot of that in the States, for sure. We have it in Sweden as well. But
I think there will be a pendulum swing, right? So, like in history, like there have been a time where we really needed political correctness because people were way out of line. There was just some stuff just like completely out of line, right? So it was too far in one way. Now, people are getting woke and it's going way the other way, to the extreme where it's like, give me a break. This is getting ridiculous. To now, like, when they're like, Dr. Seuss is no longer making, comic books or whatever because 50 years ago he used something that was offensive or whatever. So now I think there'll be a pendulum swing and a fight back to the, somewhere that's reasonable. I hope anyway. But the danger is on a lot of like university campuses, especially in America, kids are coddled and they're almost told it's a right for them not to be offended or ever hurt. Like they feel it's like a personal right, which it isn't. In the real world, someone can call you a fat fuck, a piece of shit, stupid, ugly Swede, fuck you.
Yeah.
They can do that, right? You can't sue them for that.
No.
You know what I mean? You don't have a right to be treated well and all these kind of things. People are going to be assholes in the world. So to some degree, I think like the way in which we prepare those kids is we're setting them up for failure because, you know, they're in this nice, safe bubble where everyone's like, oh, you know, this. But then when they go in the real world, you know, they'll deal with things that maybe they're not equipped to deal with.
Yeah, sometimes if you get the question, would you like to be younger? Would you like to go back when you were younger? And usually these days I say no. I'm fine with where I am. You know, it's tough to grow up these days. I think it's almost tougher than when we grew up.
It's tougher too because of like one other aspect, which is like everybody's life is now in likes and you know in your social media profiles, like. Bullying when we were a kid, bullying was like a kid in school in your class who like gives you some shit for something and tries to fight you or whatever, right? Today, it's all these people on the internet saying you're ugly, you have a fat nose, you know, you smell bad, all this kind of stuff. And for a young girl or so that's why you see like suicide rates going up because now you look at a 16. I saw this video, it freaked me out. Well, there was 30 girls for a party, 16-year-old girls having a birthday party, right? And there's a picture of them. Okay, 20 girls, some on the floor, some on the couch, every single one of them on their phone posting. I'm like, who are you texting that's not in the room right now? Don't you have like all your friends here?
Everyone is here.
So it's difficult because of the pressure. I saw a statistic that kids that age on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever are posting 20 to 30 videos a day. Listen, I've led an interesting life. I can't imagine 30 videos that people want to see. Look what I ate. Look what I drank. Look at me smile. You know, like look at my belt. Like what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's such a different atmosphere, and the tricky thing is that when we grew up, we had parents that had kind of similar circumstances when they grew up. So for us to instruct the younger people is a bit tricky, you know, because the development goes so fast. So it's hard to give them tips and this is how you should deal with this because I don't know.
Right. It's difficult. Here's the problem. So like for a lot of young kids, their self-worth is tied to how many likes a post gets. So if it doesn't get likes and people have negative things, like they feel bad, right? So like what we talked earlier about technology and how great it is during this time where we can connect and we can do this, like have a chat like this, even though you're in Sweden. But, you know, there's pros and cons and the negative, the downside of it is the, you know, the sort of, I guess, people's identity being tied, or their self-worth really tied to their social media presence, and that can be dangerous for a generation. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. This is not their fault, right? You know, we're all addicted to our phones.
Yeah,
I mean, most.
I am too. Yeah, for sure. I did most of my traveling from the years 2005 to 2016. Let's say. I mean, those were more or less the big years when the boom came through. I mean, the boom came a bit earlier with the Moneymaker, of course, 2003 that was. But then from 5 to 16. Now, when was the time when it started to go down a little bit when it came to media in poker? Do you remember? And for yourself?
Yeah, so we had a major event, a catastrophe in America, which was Black Friday, right? Which was the day where, you know, the DOJ just shut down Poker Stars, Full Tilt Poker, you know, Ultimate Bet or whatever. I think it was all three of them. Shut it down, right? So that made it difficult to justify shows like Poker After Dark and shows like the Big Game and High Stakes Poker. What people don't realize, and Poker Go today is trying to revitalize some. High Stakes Poker is back, and it's a great show. It's behind a paywall though, because someone's got to pay the bills. And this is what people don't understand is, for poker to thrive, right, it has to be on mainstream television.
Yeah.
Well, when they had the opportunity with like Full Tilt and Stars to pay for shows, for programming, to put them on NBC and Fox or whatever, to get eyeballs on it, they had a back-end way to make revenue to get more customers, right? But now with all these American customers no longer available, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? You can't put TV on. It's just because no one's going to pay for it. People always think like, oh, you must make a lot of money off this TV show. No, it's like an infomercial, right?
Right.
Poker After Dark was on at 2 a.m., right? Which is dead air for those things. They're like, all right, you want to put poker on, you pay us.
Yeah.
So no, they would pay. They didn't make money off that. The whole idea was it was a marketing expenditure. So when that happened and you started losing poker on a regular basis on TV, the popularity started to, wane a little bit. And then the emergence, I think, of a new generation of players that were on TV that sort of took on a different approach, right? In my time, people were more like loosey-goosey, they were characters, they were like shady, hustlers. And now it's like, a kid who went to college, stands like a robot, plays very slowly, wears a hoodie, sunglasses, all that kind of stuff. And that becomes less interesting to sell because what made poker popular is the characters itself, right?
Yeah, that was
So I think there was a turn that way, and that probably turned some people off. And just the game's getting tougher as well. People were having a harder time winning because, people got better.
Yeah, it's quite funny. It's that Black Friday. I think it was mid-April in 2011. It's 10 years ago now. I mean, I know you went to Canada. I don't know if you ever went to Mexico, like a lot of players did, but you played some online anyway. In going back to Canada, didn't you? At least in the beginning.
Not a ton,
Right.
not a lot. I was doing what I could, but yeah, I mean, I would play like the major tournaments and stuff like that online.
W Scoop.
Right, yeah. But I'm kind of a homebody, so I didn't travel as much for it. But a lot of people did. A lot of people were like, well, listen, this is my livelihood. So what am I going to do? And it's kind of crazy for a government to say like, all right, you can sit in your underwear on a couch outside the line, but not inside the line. Like, what do you care where I am? I'm still going to do it. And it's unfortunate. You know what? I know a lot of people who were doing like, VPNing.
Yeah,
so they started saying,
sure.
all right, well, I mean, listen, I know this one guy. He lives in Chicago. He has 2 kids, 2 young children, right? He makes his living playing online poker, right? So he set up an account in Mexico or whatever, right? Now, do I begrudge this guy for setting up a VPN so that he can be home with his kids and play online on his couch as himself, rather than have to go find a hotel in Mexico to sit there for a week, be away from his family? Do I begrudge him for that? Absolutely not. I don't give a shit. I know that like, don't VPN. I don't give a shit that people do that. And I know some people that do that. I have no issues with it because as long as you're playing under your own account, you're not multi-accounting, there's, I don't see the big deal. Because I'm not morally against playing online poker, so why should I listen to, the U.S. government says you shouldn't play? Well, fuck the U.S. government.
Yeah.
You don't know shit about online poker.
Yeah. We had some good hopes anyway that since I know you met Obama quite a few times and he liked poker in a way, he played some as well, that there was a chance that he would turn it around, but until 2016 he wasn't able.
I heard about a year ago that Obama was in a press meeting, and he has a book, and his book didn't have pages on it. Okay, it didn't have like a cover.
Okay.
It was written pages. You know what the book was that he was reading in these meetings? My book.
Really? Are you serious?
My poker book, yeah. So yeah, but you're right. So
that's funny. So you couldn't tell, but it was yours.
Knowing what he was reading. But he alone can't fix it, right? It's unfortunate. Like at the federal level, I just don't think you're ever going to see anything pass in the U.S. The good news is we are starting to see more states go, stupid. Why wouldn't we just take the revenue? They're just going to pay tax. Why not just get the tax money off it? So we have some, legal online poker in Vegas. We have some in, Atlantic City, in Michigan, Pennsylvania. If you can get New York and California on board, which are tough, but they're big, now you're talking about like a very big, player pool that can sort of reignite another little, online poker boom.
And so what is, I mean, is that something that you think will happen in the next year or two?
Well, I do. I don't think California we're ever going to get really, because there's an issue with the tribes there who run the Indian, like the, what do you call it? They have like, gambling there.
Reservations or
what's that? Yeah, the reservations. Yeah. They're opposed to online gambling because they don't understand it. So without them on board, it'd be very difficult to get it going in California. But I don't think what you'll see is like at the federal level, there'll be a law that says, it's legal across but as long as you go state by state and get to the big states, the biggest carrot I could see would be if we can find a way to connect with the international player pool in some way,
right,
with other countries, that would really ignite it. Because right now, a lot of countries are fenced in, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can play only, if you're in France, you can only play on French websites. You can't play with people from Italy. You have people from Italy, you can only play with people from Italy and Spain. So they separated it rather than made it one big player pool. And the bigger the pool, just the better it is for people. Like GG Poker, we're obviously trying to get into the United States as well, everywhere, because, they're the fastest growing site. I'm shocked at how fast GG Poker is growing, honestly.
Yeah, I think everyone is, yeah.
They're the #1 poker site in the entire world, GG Poker, now, right? Which is like 3 years ago. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah,
Who is
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Never heard. You know, when I signed with them, when I decided to make the deal with them, it was not many people on the site or whatever. You know, I signed with them. We blew it up. We got the deal with the World Series of Poker, and you know, the software is just so much better than everything else, like by a wide margin, that people just really just like playing on GG Poker, and the games are good, and the structure and the formats are great. So that's been fun working with them.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I did a Barry Greenstein, the part 2 of this podcast series, and he talked about the thing that he liked the most was when he was with PokerStars in the beginning, and he had a say. He had a direct connect with the top of the organization, and that was the best bit of being in poker. And I guess when it comes to GG Poker now, have you been part of? Have they listened to you? Have they asked you how to do things? Have you been involved in that way?
Big time. So here's the thing. When I left Stars, I didn't have any plans on signing with anybody else. I got offers immediately. I'm like, no, I'm good. Just going to live the married life, chill. I have money. I don't need it. And then the people at GG Poker helped me with an issue I was having with some staking stuff I was doing for World Series of Poker. And they said, we'll do it for you. I said, okay, great. So we created a relationship. I met with the boss guy right here at this table, started talking, and I started to listen to what he had to say. And I'm like, this guy gets it. You know, he really gets it. He knows where poker is going, and he has a good feel. And sort of the conversation came up about wanting to work with them. And he said, you know, which is true, from a software perspective, they're leagues above everybody else. It's just so cool. Like, it's genuinely fun playing on the software with all the emojis and animations and snaps and stuff like that. But the one thing they didn't have was a marketing department at all. Right?
Really?
They really didn't have. Yeah, they just were like, you know, we have great software. We're going to build that way. So I said to them, here's the thing. Like, well, you guys know software. I know marketing. Right? So essentially, they, you know, asked for direction from me and Brian Ballsbog, who's my agent guy, and we brought in somebody. Remember Wicked Chops?
Yeah, for sure.
We brought in Wicked Chops because, you know, we needed somebody really, really good who understands the industry and who, you know, we trust. So we brought him on board to build out the team, and we started building out the team. And I remember going to Toronto and meeting with the team, and it's like there's like 20 people. I'm like, how long have you been with the company? Oh, a week. How long have you been with the company? 8 days. How long have you been with the company? Today's my first day. You know, it's like, okay, so it's really cool to meet, you know, this group of people and really start from scratch. That's what was fun for me, is right? Is take GG Poker, which at the time was like, you know, an up and coming whatever, but not really on the radar. And let's see let's see where we can take this thing. And to see where it's gone in such a short period of time, it blows my mind. Like, I expected them to grow, but to surpass, you know, the largest sites that were existing already, and to, you know, make the deals that we have, it's a testament to, you know, the good job Chops has done, you know, creating the World Series of Poker deals. And just we've made a lot of deals that I think show guts and show chutzpah. Like, GG Poker is willing to take chances. They're willing to take risks to bring in the right kind of players and stuff like that. And I think they get rewarded for that, because ultimately, what do people want? Good games,
Good
right?
games,
If you want to play in a good game, GG, good game. Get it?
Yeah, of course. That's great news, and you did a great progress, of course. Where do you see it going from here? I mean, it took such big leaps already, but what are the next steps, and how do you work dealing with the pandemic and talking about it in your marketing? Is that helpful that people are at home?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, listen, when more people are at home, like, they got more free time and they're going to get sick of Netflix. And, you know, that did create a little bit of a boom across the board for online poker in general, and obviously for GG Poker. As far as like where the company goes next, I think expanding. You know, I'd really like to see, and it takes time, you know, to get a license to operate in the United States. You have to be vetted and all these types of things. The good news is, I think with GG, because of the way the company's set up, it can be fast tracked pretty much. Like, it's not like some other companies that have so much red tape and you have to like vet 80 people. It's really like a small group who created this software, you know, who are involved in the company. So I'm hopeful that, you know what I'm really hopeful for, honestly, is that I can play GG Poker from here in Vegas.
Oh, that'd
like
be
if
nice.
GG Poker, and there's some big deals I think that could make that happen, hopefully in the future. But if I could play GG Poker from here, I would stream every day. I would be on stream. I would do Twitches. I would do all this kind of stuff, and it'd be great to, you know, really promote the company, because otherwise, like right now with the pandemic, I don't want to travel.
Right.
You know, I
No,
don't want to
especially not now. Yeah, but I think what is there for one of the key things would be to get the right people's ears. For you guys like you and perhaps other well-known faces in the game to be able to reach out to those guys who decides if it's going to open up or not? Now, how do you work with that?
Well, I mean, I've gone to Sacramento and I've talked to different politicians and stuff. And here's the main issue. The main issue is this: most of these politicians spend 40 hours a week raising money for their next campaign. Like that's
so sick.
The job is they're not actually doing things. They're actually just thinking about how am I going to stay in this job, right? So they spend 80% of their time doing that. And then you think of the issues that they face, the constituents care about, right? In California, water conservation, you know, other places maybe air pollution, whatever. Poker doesn't rank very high on their list, right? So unless it makes a lot of financial sense, and for a lot of years, especially a lot of the Republican politicians in America, were you know, being supported by Sheldon Adelson, who's now passed away from Venetian, who was online poker's enemy number one. So now that he's passed away, I imagine that's opened up, because I spoke to a lot of these Republican guys who are like, listen, I don't have a problem with online poker. I think it should be legal, whatever, but like Sheldon would kill me. You know, Sheldon would absolutely just cut my throat if I, you know, voted for it. So even though they know it's probably a good thing and whatever, they still were handcuffed. I think going forward, you know, just having these conversations and, you know, reaching out to the you know, different legislatures and stuff. Again, I think it's important for people not to get their hopes up in America, like anything federal happening, because it's just not even on the radar. But just, you know, pressure the states, state by state. If there's 50 states, if you can get 15 of them, all of a sudden you got something.
I think it's important also to have a plan to show that this is economically a good thing, to tax it in the right way, which was a problem in the early years, you know, Daniel, when the companies were outside America and they didn't get any revenue from it, right? So,
right, which is bad for them, because what one of the talking points I said to them is like, listen, online poker is going to happen either way, okay? Whether you get tax money or not is totally up to you, because unregulated sites will always be a thing, okay? So you cannot protect these consumers from them because it's unregulated. How about this? You get the tax money, you get a chance to protect the consumer, and, you know, and you make all this money for something that you can't stop anyway, because, you know, you just can't stop people from playing online poker if they want to, and sites. So it's I forgot where else I was going with that. Anyway.
No, but that's interesting. Just, I don't know if this sounds bad to bring it in, but it kind of remind me of what is in California now. It's legal with marijuana.
Yeah.
And
now I remember where I was going to go with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hypocrisy stuff. Like, so you have lottery, you can bet on horses, you can do sport. Wait a minute, you can do all these things that you can't beat, but not poker, which you can beat. Right? It's so stupid. Like, why would state lotteries are just a horrible bet. You know, people do it because $1 I'll win 10 million. Yeah, but you're just losing your dollar. You know. Yeah. And there's no chance for you to be plus EV. You can't make a profession out of playing the lottery, right? So, you know, why would that be legal in their eyes and okay to take money from their, you know, constituents, but not give people an opportunity to use their brain and play a game that they enjoy, you know? So there's a lot of obviously good arguments, but the bottom line is it just comes down to, like, you know, getting the votes and getting, you know, enough people on both sides, which is difficult in America now to ever get a bill where both sides look at it and go, you know what, that's a good thing. It makes sense. It's all about, what does our party want? Oh, they want that.
Yeah.
We'll go the other way then.
And what will increase my chances to be elected and become a famous person or a governor or a senator or whatever? Oh my God, it's so funny with American politics. I've been into American politics for many years because I found it fascinating, and it's been pretty fascinating over the past 4 or 5 years, I have to say. Are you interested in politics?
Of course, you know, obviously everybody in the country became more interested because of what we faced over the last 4 years with such a divisive character, where the country was really fractured and split, where you had people, well, you have these QAnon people who believe like that, you know, Hollywood liberals are eating children and using their blood to stay young, you know, like they actually, it sounds insane, but they actually believe this shit, right? So, you know, when those people emerge, you're like, what the hell's, you know, actually happening in this country? But what I've noticed, which is great, is since January 20th or so, the country starts to feel a little more normal, right? Like we actually have a plan for COVID. Like Joe Biden just recently said that by the end of May, which is well ahead of schedule, we should have vaccine available for everybody who wants one. You know, which is a really good thing, because when he came into office, there really was no plan for this. Right. Like, I don't know, fuck, I'm golfing, I'm busy, you know, which is probably better. It's better, like him being on the golf course doing nothing was probably better than him having ideas. But it's been sad what social media, what himself has done to this country, because it's ripped it apart to the point where I don't see a time where we can go back to like, you know, normalcy in that regard.
Right,
like,
right.
you know, even when Ronald Reagan was president, you know, he was a Republican. Democrats liked him too, you know, they supported him or whatever. But, you know, more and more we see, you know, probably since, well, Bush and then Obama, and then of course Trump, it's like, if it's not your guy, it's just like, I hate this guy. You know, there's no more pride in that. And I did not like our past president because I didn't like what he represented. I thought he was a con artist and a bullshitter and just dangerous for the country. So I guess I'm part of the problem in that regard, because I was like, I root for the country, but I don't root for him because he's an asshole.
It's interesting with some of my American friends. They still think that Americans are like, they want the war, they want the diversity, they want their team to this is my team and this is my team and they are the enemy. And what I heard about Biden, when he tries to calm down the temperature, a lot of people wants the temperature up there because it's kind of part of their lifestyle, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a form of tribalism, right? It's a form of sport. Like, you know, when you have a favorite hockey team or baseball team or whatever, you root for them and you root against the other guys, right? Well, this is a similar, you know, idea where we're really like splitting people. And now that we're splitting people based on political beliefs, like when you think about it, nationalism, right? When you think of the term nationalism, like, I'm Swedish, you know, good for Sweden. I'm like, what did you do to be Sweden other than just literally be born on a line that was like over here instead of being born in Finland? So because you were born 3 miles here versus here, oh, I'm this is the best, but they're awful. Like, it's so cockamamie and stupid, right? Imaginary lines we create, but people, you know, buy into this, right? Like, oh, you know, you got to have your spirit, your team, and you're absolutely right. And that's the biggest part of the problem, is the tribalism is worse now than ever because, you know, we went to such an extreme with the last 4 years, right? Where there's people on the fringe who, like I said, like the ones who buy into this QAnon cult conspiracy stuff. It's maddening, you know. It's like, it's sad too because it's fractured families and friendships, because when somebody goes down that rabbit hole, there's really no coming back for them. It's very, very difficult to wake them up to go, you know, this is all bullshit, right?
Yeah, but
even when nothing they think is going to happen happens, nothing comes true, they still buy the bullshit.
Yeah, but what I find fascinating is difficult even for Americans, but from Europe, being a European, how many is there really? Because you have a big block in the middle that are not that concerned. You know, they think things are good. Then you have the guys on the far right and the guys on the far left. How big is this group percentage-wise, would you guess?
Yeah. You actually made a good point earlier when you talked about the loudest voices, right? The loudest voices are on the far right and the far left. They're the loudest voices, but they're the minority of the country by a wide margin. So imagine having like 5 to 10% on this side, 5 to 10% on this side, and the rest of the country somewhere in the middle where they're reasonable human beings to some degree, right? It's the problem is with social media now, those voices are amplified, right? I mean, they finally took Trump off Twitter, which has made a real positive difference on the entire world.
Entire world.
This guy at 5 in the morning just watching Fox News, and this is where he was getting his news. I'm like, you're the president. You are the news. Like, you're supposed to be the source of it, not like go to a TV show and go, oh, look what's happening in the world. I'm like, you're supposed to know what's happening in the world, right? So the fact that social media has also, and they're very good at this, they create like sort of echo chambers and bubbles where, you know, your feed is just going to have stuff that reconfirms your own beliefs, right? Whether if you're on the left, you see stuff that supports your views, right? All you see is Antifa this, Antifa that. Like, it's like, I've done that too. I went down the rabbit hole to see, like, well, let me look at some of these people, look at their feed, you know, on their Twitter. And I'm like, they see things I don't see, which is like,
of course, it's totally different. You get the people that think alike. And if you get fed with that, of course, how can you change an opinion? That goes for us as well, because all our friends are on the same side. So that's not good, that either. How do you...
Well, and that's a bigger problem. Like I used to say, I used to have dinners before Trump with Republicans, and I'm liberal. I'm a classic liberal, if you will. I don't consider myself far left at all. You know, I'm reasonable, moderate, like Obama and Clinton or whatever. But I used to have discussions with people who were Republican on healthcare, taxation, all these, you know, critical issues. And we had reasonable, like, good dinner. These were friendly people that I was friends with. Past Trump, there was no talking to them anymore, because it was never a question of like, let me hear what you have to say and go, you know, you make a good point. Because often I would hear them say something like, no, you're right. They're like, one of my guys is a Republican. He's like, you know, he doesn't think, you know, the rich should be taxed more or whatever. And one of his reasons is like, I mean, I don't like how they spend my tax money, right? He's like, they're spending my tax money on all these military planes and, stuff that I don't want to spend my money in. How about let me keep my own money and I'll choose to give it to charity however I want to. I'm like, I can respect that opinion. I can expect where you're coming from. But if we don't have the conversations anymore where we're trying to hear each other and trying to come to like actually a compromise or a sort of consensus, we just end up in two camps that don't talk to each other. And when we do, nobody listens. Nobody's listening. They're just waiting for you to finish so they can tell you their talking points. So for example, a simple example, you could say, Trump was accused by 20 women of sexually assaulting them. Do you believe that's the case? That they're all lying? What do they answer with? Well, Bill Clinton got a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky, so how about that?
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't ask about Bill Clinton, but that's absolutely wrong. But can we focus on what I asked you about? It's called whataboutism.
I was about to say, that's one of my favorite words. Whataboutism. What a word, huh?
Right. It's basically a way to not answer the question because you don't have a good answer and just point the finger back. Well, you're no better. I'm like, okay, but let's just focus on this. Okay, you're right. What Bill Clinton did was wrong.
We admit that, but let's get back to the subject.
I'm not condoning that, but are you saying that that all these women are lying, that none of them have a case? Is that what you're trying to say? No. What about the Hillary and blah 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 and Benghazi and the emails?
But what is a way then to? I don't know. I mean, how would you get back to this? One thing, he didn't get voted there, so he's not the president anymore. That's a big step, the major step. But how will you? What is another way to mend this gap and try to get people to grow their ear outs again? Do you know what I mean?
Listen, I wish there was an easier solution, but unfortunately, the way that the country's cut up, and the fact that we have what's called gerrymandering and an electoral college, it's like the majority are always the majority of Americans are almost always going to vote Democrat. The popular vote has gone to a Democrat for like 20 years, and it always will because of California and New York. The problem is little spots like, what is it? North Dakota and South Dakota. Yeah. There's 80 people that live there, but they have a North and a South, and they get votes for both, and they get to elect senators on both. So, it becomes more difficult. I don't think there is an easy solution, unfortunately, because of social media. I think the social media companies, as difficult as it is to say, because they have to sort of allow for free speech, they have to be part of the solution with technology to stop. Because here's what's coming. That's really bad. I don't know if you're familiar with deepfakes, but deepfakes. Rickard, I can literally do a deepfake where I have your image and I can make it look like you did something horrible on video and show that and put that on Facebook or whatever. And now you're a horrible person. It wasn't actually you. It wasn't real, but it doesn't matter because as we learned, on Facebook, so many people got their news from Facebook, from posts that they saw, and they just believed everything they read. Imagine what if you have video where you could actually have Obama's voice saying something like, "I love Satan. Satan's the greatest," and they hear that and they're like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? So that's a big risk and a danger in the future where technology is just going to have to stay one step ahead of it. But as far as uniting the country, I honestly think that we're in a better place today than we were because some of the QAnon people are realizing maybe that was bullshit. And Biden is very calm. People say Biden is a boring president. Perfect.
Yeah, that's what you need.
I don't need to have the news on my channel always talking about a tweet about this guy's lame. She has a fat face, lame, sad, pathetic. I don't want to hear this fourth grade English on my screen.
No, we don't need that.
Where the news channels go over it for days and days and days. If Biden's not in the news for the next 2 years, fantastic. That would be good for me.
Yeah. No, we had a quite interesting discussion a few years back. I think it was regarding when Brexit came through, when the UK wants to get out of the European Union. And some people discussed that maybe the democracy, the word democracy is outdated, which is interesting. That maybe not in the environment we live today with social media and so on, the public is not fit enough to make a decision. Now we should look into other solutions to that. Is that something that is discussed in the States as well? You know what I mean?
So that's something that I've spent a little bit of time studying because I find it really fascinating and interesting and actually sad as well. When you look historically, democracies have always ended up kind of failing.
Yeah.
Because eventually the people, so what you end up seeing is a lot of authoritarian regimes who are stable, if you will. Like if you look at China right now, China is not, they have humanitarian crisis and all that kind of stuff, but like their economy's doing well. They have complete control. Like if you look at how they were able to handle, the COVID situation, like you can't leave your house. Like they got drones.
Yeah.
People like stay home. Like here's the thing. I don't want to live in that, but I get it. Like I get how that sort of can be appealing to some because it actually works better. And the idea is that people don't know what's good for them, and people are typically sheep. I still believe in democracy, and I want it to be a thing. But there's, of course, it isn't a perfect solution, as you said. I don't know of a better one specifically.
No.
But I do think, I do believe in freedom, and I think freedom is important, and I wouldn't want to live in an authoritarian regime where they tell me how many children I'm allowed to have, whether I'm allowed to use the internet like in North Korea and stuff. Like it's a slippery slope. How far down the line do you go if you give government complete control? And that's one of the beautiful things about, America historically. But you're right. Sometimes in a democracy, it can lead to some really bad outcomes.
Yeah. What do you have there? Look at that. Is that Rocky or Apollo?
This is Rocky right here. Apollo's over there.
Ah, look at that kid. Ah, isn't he beautiful, huh?
Yeah, he's a cutie.
How old are they now?
They're what, like 3 years old now? I want to say
3 years old. You happy? You're happy with them? Your kids?
Oh, yeah. They're great, bud. They're great dogs. They're so great, and they love Amanda, and they love Joel, who just showed up. They love Patty, my assistant. Yeah, they're very lovey-dovey dogs. I don't know how that happened because my other dog Mushu was like he would bite you with venom. Like
He bit me. You remember?
He bit you.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
It was just very protective of you, right? You were the one. Yeah, that's good. Okay, now that's a lot of talk. I mean, I started this series quite recently, and there's usually so much to talk about. And what I miss is, because back in the day, we used to have a talk every 2 months or something, and we always had things to talk about. And usually back then it was about poker and tournaments here and tournaments there. So maybe we will have time to have another talk down the road. What do you think?
Let's do another one. This is a good amount for now, and then we can always do a part 2.
That's a good plan, I think. And we've gone through so many things, and we stayed away quite a lot from poker, and I like that. It's good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Are you happy, Daniel?
Very happy. We're like, and I almost feel uncomfortable saying that sometimes because like people during the pandemic, obviously that's a tragedy and it's traumatic for a lot of people. But for me and my wife, it's actually there's been a lot of blessings in disguise. The gratitude of just, the life that we have and the way that we get to live. I'm one of the lucky ones. And, I know there's a lot of people who are suffering out there. And, I don't take for granted how lucky I am to be where I'm at.
Excellent. No, of course we should talk about more things the Helmut thing, the discussion there and so on. But let's take a talk soon again, Daniel. We have another talk and we talk about new things and poker and so on.
Absolutely, man. It was good hearing from you.
Good to hear from you too. We talk soon again. Say hi to Amanda.
Right. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Later, bye.
Well, that was a very interesting talk with Daniel. As you could hear, it was not that much poker. It was more about politics and life, which I enjoy talking about. This podcast series is made possible thanks to our sponsor, Intertops Poker. We are back in a few weeks with another interesting guest. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye. A warm welcome to the 4th episode of the Swedish Deal. Gus Hansen is the guest of this episode, and fortunately we have 2 parts. So this is the first part of 2, where we talk to Gus about the early years and some more. This podcast series is made possible thanks to our sponsor Intertops Poker. I really hope you will enjoy this. It is early April and I'm talking to Gustav Hansen. Gus, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I know you told me that you're back in where you used to live for many years. You're in Monaco right now, right? What are you doing there?
I'm in Monaco right now. It's the end of a journey, you could say, or beginning of a new chapter, or however you want to put it. I've been residing in Monaco for 17 years, maybe 18 years, I think 2003, so sounds like 18. And now I got, let's call it a wife, not officially because we're not married and not planning on it, but we got a little kid. and moving to Denmark. Simply, Denmark is home, and that's where I grew up, and old friends, my roots, family, etc. So goodbye, Monaco, and welcome back, Denmark.
Oh, that's nice. I know. I think the first real interview we did, you and I, was maybe back in 2005, 6, something like that. What is the biggest difference? I mean, because you weren't sure that you would ever create a family. Do you feel good? Was it a good time now for you to do that?
Well, like I probably said, like 15 years ago, what's the difference? Well, back then I was probably 32, and now I'm 47. That's a big difference. But no, I was never sure. I always had it kind of on my mind that maybe someday I would, and I guess this maybe one day arrived about 6 months ago. So the little Arthur is 6 months old, and no, it just feels like yeah, things happen. I've been in the poker community, been traveling around the world, and maybe I'm not quite as crazy as I was 15 years ago, and settling down, whatever that means. Obviously, settling down is a different word for different types of people, but still settling down a little bit. I'm still going to be traveling a little bit. I'm still going to do some sports. I'm still going to play some poker hands or some backgammon games. But there's also a little kiddo who's gonna need some attention.
Of course. Now, of course, I mean, a lot of people, everyone who's been around since back then, know so much about you, but there's also a new generation. So I thought we'd just go through shortly. I mean, when you got into poker, it started with backgammon, didn't it? Back in the 90s, right?
It started with backgammon back in the 90s. Last year of my gymnasium high school equivalency for the English-speaking audience, I started playing a lot of backgammon. I didn't attend class. I stayed up till 5 in the morning, played some small tournament, and skipped the first few hours of school, etc., etc. Still got my diploma, but I kind of was getting a little sniff of the gambling world, and as usual, a lot of people in Denmark kind of take a year off after their high school, maybe travel a bit, and I traveled, but I traveled with gambling, and it was backgammon. And actually, I finished my high school in '92, and already the year after, through a mutual friend, I bumped into Huck Seed.
Huck Seed, really? Oh.
Yes, so he tried to play a little backgammon as well, and obviously he was a hot shot in poker back then. So I beat him out of a little bit of money in backgammon. He beat me out of a little bit in poker. We played friendly stakes, but we became friends, and I went to Vegas for the first time, I think in '93, '94, '95, and I usually stayed at his place with his girlfriend. And actually, kind of to hum along the story, in '96, me and Huck were out playing a pickup game of basketball.
He's a bit taller, isn't he?
Huh?
Isn't he a bit taller?
He's a bit taller. We didn't play against each other. He was way too good. But on a pickup game where you're like 5 against 5.
Okay.
And it was Monday at 12 o'clock. We played till 1 o'clock. And then we took a quick shower and went down to the Horseshoe for the World Series of Poker.
Wow.
The main event was starting at 1 o'clock, and we almost got there too late. So they let us in. We were entry number 298 and 299 in '96. So there was just under 300 people. And I played for the first time in the World Series main event. I had about 0.00% chance of winning. I had no idea what I was doing. And as it turned out, my good friend Huck Seed, and I actually had 10% of him, he won the world championship that year.
Yeah, that's a good story.
And actually, I think a lot of my style was actually developed from watching. I mean, it was a big deal for me. I had 10%. I mean, first prize was $1 million. I mean, 10%, that was a big score for me
For
back
sure.
then.
Of course.
So I was watching, paying a lot of attention to what was going on, and really, I think Huck obviously had some luck. You have to have some luck to win a tournament like that. But I think he was also that year the best player. He was really
Yeah.
pushing people's envelope. He was testing people, and he just picked up a lot of antes, a lot of blinds, a lot of hands, and just building his stack, pushing the big stack that he had. So I think I definitely got some pointers from that to develop my own style.
How much age difference is it between you? Because sometimes when you talk about a mentor in a way that you kind of describe him as, how big age difference is it? And would you say he was your mentor early?
No, I wouldn't say he was my mentor. The age gap is only like a handful of years,
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So he was a friend, and I think that's one of my good sides. I have plenty of bad ones. We're not going to get into that, but one of my good ones is I like to watch. I like to pay attention, and I definitely did that. I mean, I probably paid more attention to all the hands Huck played than he did himself. If you understand what I'm saying.
Of course.
I'm there watching. I don't have to make the decision. I can just take in everything I see, everything I notice, and so I think that was a very good learning experience for me, and also realizing that I played myself and I had no chance because I really didn't know the game that well.
No, but I think maybe it was lucky that you found Huck, because I think the way he played then had a big advantage to many players who played the old-fashioned style, and it kind of suited your style from the start, didn't it? To be active.
It definitely did. So I mean, it's again, and obviously, why did we bump into each other? Why did we become friends? But again, maybe we have the similar mentality, etc., and it goes along well. We both like sports. We both like poker. We both like gambling. We were somewhat of the same age, so in that sense, it was probably a good match.
I think it's been mentioned sometimes that Huck Seed was the unknown. A lot of people didn't know about his winning because it was so early, and they didn't know his strength. Would you say, where would he be? Where would you rank him among the big players, the great players?
Well, I think, as you said, really, if you go before World Poker Tour, before television really came into it, nobody knows how people were playing, how good they were. I think probably the way Huck played in '96, he was a bit ahead of his time, and I was just lucky enough to be there, see it, watch it, learn from it, and maybe take it a little bit to the television set at people's back in people's homes. So he was definitely a good player. I think he probably had a little bit, which I have sometimes described as a flaw of my own, maybe a little too active.
Right.
It's very good to. I mean, I think winning poker is aggressive poker, but it's not non-stop aggressiveness.
No.
You have to have. There's a gas pedal and there's a brake, and if you forget to ever step on the brake, you're going to crash sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
And I think I've definitely experienced some crashes along the way, and so has Huck. So, but the good thing about crashing is hopefully you learn from that experience.
Yeah, I think the timing for you as well, because this was just before poker even became something that people knew about, that you could play in the way, and No Limit Hold'em came through and all that. Because I think everyone remembers you from the very first broadcasts from World Poker Tour that came across the world, and we saw in the northern countries as well. Did you see the potential there in the TV broadcast? Did you have an idea that this might be really, really big?
I don't think. I think it can be described as a bit of a lucky timing on my part. basically I had ventured into backgammon, and I've always considered myself, and hope I hope to think that I'm not the only one, but a very strong backgammon player, and I made a living from backgammon for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and I somehow maybe more saw the limitations to the possibilities of backgammon more than I saw the potential that poker had. So I was kind of, whilst playing backgammon and for high stakes, or what was considered high stakes in the backgammon world, I was kind of looking for other venues, other roads, paths to take where maybe some of my talents could be put to use in some way, shape, or form. And I think with the bumping into to Huckseed, and just kind of getting to know the Las Vegas from mid '90s, kind of introduced me to the poker setting, and then I just had, like I said, lucky timing, exquisite timing. You call it whatever you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting, I think, because I don't know if this is the right word, an enigma in a way, because you became such a character in the first years of televised poker. What was it in you think, that made you suit the role so well? Because you really became, of course, you had some wins, which is a good thing. But what was it in your character and your genes that made you suit this role?
Well, I think again, I definitely created my own style of play, and obviously the wins added to it. But I think I was definitely, if we go like early 2000s, I was not your prototype of card player. Back then, it was still people, a lot of final table being with guys 40, 45, 50, 55, and here comes this young kid, even though I was still maybe like 27, 28, 29, so I wasn't young, but comparatively speaking, I was young, relatively fit, playing a lot of sports, and then this crazy image. The image just fit well into some young gunslinger that came in from this time from the north, not the west, but it just think I over the past 5-10 years, I'm really starting to appreciate a good storytelling, and I think my character was a good storytelling back then. It fit in perfectly. I was a tad bit different, to say the least, from the rest of the bunch, and I got some good wins under my belt, and so on. And the story just, or the snowball just keeps on rolling.
Yeah, I think also one of the things that added to this for you, that was good for you, was that, I mean, I don't know when YouTube came through, but all these clips, it was just a couple of hands where you played 3-5 of suit and bluffed, and it's kind of created some kind of, you were kind of the dream that many were trying to being that guy, like a film character. So what I want to ask you is, because in the first interview I did with you for Poker Magazine, you had a lot of girls around you. You were dressed in a suit, and were you acting a lot, or were you being yourself? If you know what I mean, were you adding on to the character?
That's an interesting question, which I've never stumbled upon or been asked before, and my answer would be not at all. I definitely would say, if you have, it's kind of set up, and I remember one, I think after I won the first one at the Bellagio, I'm sitting there with 5 cocktail waitresses, and there 5 very pretty girls, and it just adds to the story, and it's the high life, and blah blah this and that. And of course, a setting like that is somewhat set up, but my character as such, I've never really tried to play any role of anything. I mean, and when you ask the question, the first thing that came into my mind is Phil Hellmuth, because he likes to enter the stage at the World Series in a gladiator outfit with 10 girls, and that's a complete acting job.
Right.
And to be honest, I really don't think Phil Hellmuth is that good an actor. So to me, it's a little bit silly. It's kind of a charade.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's creating an image, and all the best to him, because he's
Right.
been good at creating an image, creating a story, creating possibilities for himself.
Yeah.
And to me, there's a big difference in Phil Hellmuth, the person, and Phil Hellmuth as the poker player on TV.
Right.
Because to me, that's a charade, and I'm not a big fan. But I'm actually, I would say, outside poker, I'm friends with Phil Hellmuth. We went to a concert in California. I stayed at his place, etc. So, and there